Alright, hello and welcome back everyone. Today's video here, I'm just going to be detailing basically my photo book collection here as it stands now here in June 2020. Majority of them comprised of different kinds of fine art. Majority of them are landscape. There's also some different kinds of wildlife type photo books here, but we're just going to dive in right here. I got a pretty decent stack, so we're just going to kind of quickly flip through them and I'll show you kind of what each one's about. So for the first couple here, they're Ansel Adams photo books here, and majority of my collection seems to be Ansel Adams, as you can imagine, just because he is one of the greats when it comes to national parks and landscape photography, or just nature photography in general. So probably one of the most famous examples here is the Yosemite photo book here. It's just a really small one. Great introduction if you're new to Ansel's work, and it shows his very classic black and white imagery of various different national parks throughout his tenure and his career as a photographer. So very nice and simple one. Really like that last image, of course. And this is one of my favorites, honestly. Like I said, it's really small, but gets the job done, and it shows lots of his greatest images. This next one's another Ansel one. This one's the National Parks Service photographs, and it's basically just showing the ones he was commissioned to photograph for the Department of the Interior, and to really kind of show the national parks in a whole different kind of light in order to conserve them. You can see it just takes you through each kind of national park or whatever. It's a very nice one as well. Highly recommend that one. Here's another really good Ansel one. This one's Yosemite and the Range of Light. A lot of these tell different stories about Ansel's life. Some of them are just basic kind of life and career overviews, and then other ones show more kind of intimate accounts of different trips out in the field, or just even recounting details into his personal life, and showing different basically stories that he has to share. Because this man he's had lots of adventures out here. Here's a nice beautiful little abstract, something a little bit different from him. So yeah, very beautiful book. Big Ansel Adams fan. This next one is Photography of Natural Things by Freeman Patterson. As you can see, it's a very small book, very thin, and this is comprised of different there's lots of text in this one explaining different things, but it's comprised of color film photography, mainly of, well, natural things, but also mainly wildlife in this case. But there's some, you can see by these little lily pads. Got some macro with the insects. Here's a few landscapes there. So it kind of covers all the bases here. It's a photo book that I very much enjoy, and it really kind of opened my eye to different things to see out there when out in the field. This one's an interesting one. It's called Wild Bird Photography, National Audubon Society Guide, and it's by Tim Fitzharris. So this one, as the name suggests, was kind of commissioned by the Audubon Society, which is mainly known for its bird conservation successes and efforts, but they also support all different kinds of wildlife as well. But this one's centered around, namely bird photography, giving you lots of techniques when out in the field, and showing you different kind of case studies and examples of different images that the author took for this book. As you can tell, a lot of these books that I own or in my possession are much older ones, but the knowledge is still as relevant as ever, whether you shoot film or digital, really doesn't matter. And of course the imagery is timeless. So yeah, this one goes through a lot of different details, but I very much enjoyed it all the same. This next one's actually from a workshop, but I happened to get it at a free meeting at a local camera club, and so this one's Notes from the Field by Tom and Pat Corey. This one, like I said, is from a workshop, so it's more informational, but it does have a handful of different kinds of examples of different photographs to see here. A few quotes. There's some little, they call them creative exercises, and it's a nice, short and sweet, but it's jam-packed with a lot of information, and I found it to be a very useful one. Another one of my favorite photographers is John Shaw, and this is The Business of Nature Photography. So this one, it's much less a photo book and more of like the other previous one I just mentioned, a more instructional one. Some of the information is a little outdated by now, simply because this was made in the 1990s. But there's still, like I said, some great imagery and different kinds of things that you can see in this kind of photo book here. And John Shaw is just a great photographer. He's one of my favorites, quite personally. And to continue that, here's the Nature Photographer Field Guide from him. And this one shows, it's a lot more wordy than the previous one I just mentioned, but the imagery is still all the same. Very beautiful colors and saturation, and yeah, it's one I really, really love. Here's the Professional Photographer's Guide to Shooting and Selling Nature and Wildlife Photos by Jim Zuckerman. Once again, kind of like the John Shaw book for The Business of Nature Photography, I found this one to be very, very nice. Just different kinds of information about selling your photographs, but once again, it's a little more outdated since business and industry has changed over the years. And this one's a pretty special one. This is a Canon photo book, actually, and it's called Wildlife as Canon Sees It. And so I really love that cover. And it just takes you through, it has lots of quotes. Each image is accompanied by a caption, and it just takes you through a handful of wildlife images from around the world. Very beautiful imagery from many different professional photographers from all walks of life, and depending on what they specialize in, of course. It's a very small photo book, but it's one I very enjoy, just for the packaging and such. Elliot Porter is also another favorite of mine. This book made me an instant fan of him. It's, as you can see, titled Intimate Landscapes, and he's also one of the greats, along with Ansel, in really just kind of making landscape photography very mainstream and popularizing the idea of conservation in nature, and doing that all with the camera. This one's a very, very simple photo book. It's just got basically the timestamp for when the photo was made, the location, and then it also has the photo, of course, and that's pretty much it. So this one's a very, very quick look through, but this is one where I would say it's rewarded by kind of repeat looks at. You can definitely see different things in each image and see all different kinds of detail as well. Alpine Country of the West by Don Lowe, and the text is by David Sumner. It's a very nice one as well. It's a more regional photo book. It's basically centered around thematically around a certain kind of region on the planet. So, while the other ones have more of a general kind of overview, this one is more detailed around the Alpine country, as the name suggests. But the imagery is always really breathtaking. Just look at that. Very nice photo book. It's one I enjoy. Sometimes it's nice to get those really specific ones. And continuing with the theme here, we have The Western Horizon, photographs by Macduff, Everton, and different Marion Hebner and Edmund Merce did the introduction commentaries. So this one, it has a lot of text and information early on, but then it just, the name of the game with this one is panoramic kind of images, and this is probably one of my favorite photo books, honestly. You can tell by that really kind of wide, elongated kind of letterbox style of the photo book here, but the imagery is just spectacular for what it's worth. It's all shot on panoramic cameras in particular, and each one's accompanied by, each set of images has a story to go along with it. Joshua Tree National Park. So overall, it's one of my favorite photo books, at least for a region outside of the state of Ohio. And here's Wildlife Photography, the Art and Technique of 10 Masters. And this one is a more compilation type kind of photo book here. Includes different various photographers. It shows different kind of details like the focal length, the camera settings, as well as these nice beautiful photographs. And it basically details, this one's more about not so much the images themselves, but it's also about each individual photographer and their stories to go along with it. And so it basically gives, like in this case, advice to beginners and things you can do to improve your kind of wildlife photography here. And the thing I really like about this kind of photo book is, like I said, it focuses more on the photographers and the people, and it kind of just goes over their kind of photographic style, goes over the equipment that they use at the time, which is film was still dominant at the time of this book being published. But each one, like I said, brings a different thing to the table, and it makes this photo book very, very unique in my eyes. Like this one that has focuses on underwater and fish photography. So it's a very nice one, and I'm glad to have it in my collection. Back to Ansel Adams here. Here's a Kate F. Jennings type book, and once again it just includes lots of different information. Here's some photographs of him with Henry Ford here, and going over his details, different things in his personal life, but of course still including his beautiful scenic photography out in the national parks. I will say, once you've purchased and owned a handful of Ansel books, you kind of start seeing the homogeneous qualities, and I don't mean this in any negative way, of course. That would be a way to defame him, of course, because I still love his photography. But you do start to notice the different, the repeating images that kind of are present in each photo book here. And the handful that I have, about 6 of them, I've noticed there's kind of a string and handful of images that are apparent and appear in all the different photo books. But here's something a little bit different. This one is images of the American West, and so it shows the sea next to everything. It shows all the other different details, like this image that has power lines, and it shows the different kind of Pueblo kind of structures that were present in New Mexico. So he's known for different things. He also did a lot of portraiture as well, as you can see here. And I like this one just because it's a little bit different, different from his typical portfolio-worthy shots as well. In keeping in line with that, here's The Spirit of Wild Places. And this one has a lot more text with it. As you can see, what I just saw in the previous book, same images here. But of course, it still includes a lot of his more scenic photography that his trademark style is known for. But he even took stuff like that, so different kind of styles at least. Almost done here. America's National Parks. So this one's a nice little overview of each kind of national park here. It goes through each one. Like here's the Badlands, Canyonlands, Glacier, Helica, that's how you pronounce it, Hawaii Volcanoes, Joshua Tree, Lake Clark, Mount Rainier, Virgin Islands. And it just shows typical different kinds of beautiful scenic. And here's Mount Zion. It's one of my favorites to look at. Thomas Mangelson. He's probably one of my favorite wildlife photographers. He does also a lot of landscapes and different kind of scenics, but he's most well known for his wildlife photography. There's some cedar waxwings. This one's very nice. It's an older one. It's actually from the late 80s, so he's had a lot more of a storied career since then, of course, as he still is going. There's Aurora Borealis. But he's more into doing lots of with digital photography, and this is film in this case. The thing I like about this one is it has lots of notes from the field, since he documents in a diary or journal his experiences out in the field. So that book just kind of creates more of an intimate kind of landscape or atmosphere. Primal Forces by David and Mark Munch. This one is more focused on weather patterns. Has lots of beautiful, as you can see, gorgeous imagery of landscapes, but it definitely focuses more on weather patterns. And this one's interesting and more unique in my collection because it actually explains the scientific reasonings why different kinds of weather actually occurs. And essentially, as it goes through all the elements, so it goes through fire, air, wind, whatnot, and water. And it even brings more, like these quotes, more spiritual and more poetic lines to the text as well. Landscapes of America. This one includes lots of, as the name suggests, landscapes of America, but it also includes different mountains, some lakes, even some old town homes, some farmsteads, some bogs, wetlands, some marinas. It even includes different kinds of national and governmental structures, and it includes different kinds of seasons as well. And last but not least, Spectacular America. So this is a very, very big one, but it covers so much detail in these very large images here. And it includes different kinds of non-nature landscapes, or stuff that includes artificial and urban structures, like the lighthouse there. And it takes you across the entire country and just shows you a beautiful, dazzling display of different colors, lights, different orientations, and yeah, it's a really unique look and compilation of photographers' backgrounds, and shows, pretty much fleshes out their unique photo styles, and includes pull-out panoramic photos like that fold out and everything. Alright, that is it, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Just look at my photo collection here. Photo book collection, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.